I got a Patreon request from Justin to review Edgar Wright's comedy, Hot Fuzz. The second movie in his Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy. This is actually my favorite of the three. For me, this captures a lot of what I really like about Wright's work, from the witty humor, to the use of action editing, to the way it pays homage to a specific film genre. Although revisiting Hot Fuzz these days, there are aspects of the movie that become incredibly relevant, more than likely because Wright and Simon Pegg might have already known what was bubbling under the surface. Of course, the most appealing element of Hot Fuzz is the comedy, which is consistently funny. Right from the opening scene, when police constable Nicholas Angel finds out he's been transferred to a small countryside town, the laughs immediately start coming and stay that way throughout the running time. Wright has a really good ability in making you know so much about a character from that first scene, using the right amount of exposition and dialogue. Pegg does an exceptional job at portraying Nick's dedication to police work, and how seriously he takes it all. His interactions with Nick, Frost, Danny provide some big laughs, with Pegg and Frost showing some strong contrast between Danny's joyfulness and Nick's professionalism. Even the town of Sanford has a lot of personality, and the filmmakers allow us to get to know the inhabitants and each of their important contributions. Timothy Dalton probably stands out the most as the owner of a supermarket who's really proud about the fact that he owns a supermarket and the incredible prices for which he sells its products. The use of running gags also pays off well, with one of my favorites being the continuous search for a runaway swan. This is just a really smart and well-structured screenplay with that characteristic British sense of humor I have a huge fondness for. Beyond the jokes, Hot Fuzz also functions as a really affectionate tribute to over-the-top action movies. You would think a comedy involving a buddy cop dynamic would poke fun at the entire genre. However, Wright and Pegg instead look at films like Bad Boys 2 with a lot of admiration for the filmmakers willing to go as ridiculous as possible with the stunts and action sequences. In a lesser film, Danny would be mocked for loving Michael Bay movies and gunfight-heavy cop movies. Hot Fuzz instead chooses to make that one of his most endearing traits, and one of the most genuinely touching scenes is actually when Nick decides to take Danny up on his offer to watch the movies he's been talking up since they first started working together. That's something I love about Edgar Wright's movies. Each film he has directed is taking something he holds with affection and putting his own loving spin on it, whether it's zombie movies with Shaun of the Dead, video games with Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, or strange European horror films with Last Night in Soho. Even his documentary, The Sparks Brothers, is just one long celebration about this quirky band he's a fan of, where it just lists off the reasons why each album of theirs is so special. Through a good amount of Hot Fuzz, Wright takes pleasure in taking mundane police activities and editing and filming them with the intensity of an action film. Of course, when the movie goes into full-on, over-the-top action mode in the third act, that also delivers, and it becomes a really entertaining sequence, wonderfully calling back to remarks and scenes from earlier in the film. This is a film that uses foreshadowing really well, especially when Nick starts piecing together the mystery of why so many people are dying in this seemingly idyllic British town. That brings me to one of the other main themes of Hot Fuzz, which sure plays differently in a post-Brexit world. Not to get too political, but it's difficult not to think of that controversial European Union vote when the film depicts British citizens who despise anything that alters what they see as a perfect place, try to hold on to old traditions as best they can, and have a distrust for outsiders. One of the villains even loudly proclaims that he wants to make Sanford great again. It should be noted that Edgar Wright did grow up in a small town, and Hot Fuzz even used said town, Wells in Somerset, as its principal filming location. So I don't think he predicted the future. The movie is basically saying that even a place that seems perfect and charming and whimsical probably has a few skeletons in its closet too. Whichever way you look at it, it's a smart commentary. There's also a clear influence from the British horror classic The Wicker Man, which is also about a serious policeman who winds up in a small town and gets to know the strange people living there and their customs. In the end, I do think Hot Fuzz has earned its place as one of the most quotable British comedies of the 21st century. It's also another example of what a great filmmaker Edgar Wright is, as he takes what is ultimately a silly comedy and sprinkles it with clever plot developments, fun action, a loving tribute to absurd cop movies, and a dash of social commentary. It's a film I was more than happy to revisit for this review. If you've also seen Hot Fuzz, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for the request, Justin.